Hello and welcome back to another fantastic interview with the amazing Kat Merrick. Now, Kat runs the Breathe, Dance and Yoga, which she founded in 2016 and is dedicated to empowering women to connect to their body and soul, rediscover their strength whilst cultivating confidence and joy in their lives. And who doesn't want a bit more of that? Mm-hmm. Now, after a decade of teaching dance and education, Kat now focuses on teaching women how to reduce stress and create energy and happiness through yoga, breathwork, meditation, dance, and her signature class, Yoga Vibes. Now, Yoga Vibes is a fusion of yoga, asana. Have I said that right, Kat?
Asana.
Asana, thank you. And dance, which focuses on embodiment, acceptance, and connection, finding freedom of the mind, and is set to uplifting house music. Now, Kat is also a mum or mama to 2 children, and although originally from Burnley in Lancashire, has found her forever home in Shrewsbury, Shropshire. Now, Kat holds a BA Honours Dance degree, a 200-hour Yoga Diploma from BWY, and is currently training to be a Buteyko. I told you I'd get it wrong. Breathing instructor. She's really kind enough to have a chat with me today to share more about her journey. And after absolutely destroying that introduction, Kat, thank you. Welcome for joining me.
Hello.
Any hard words in there for me? So, Kat, just tell us a little bit more about you. How did you get to be to where you are now?
Well, it's been quite a different journey, but I started as a dance teacher, and after I'd done my dance degree, I kind of did a bit of freelance work and things like that. So dance was kind of the main thing for me for a long time, and I ended up going into education, into further education colleges and secondary schools, and still kind of carrying on with a bit of the freelance teaching. And that's where, so I started Breathe Dance Company. And the reason I called it Breathe was because I was doing quite a lot of inclusive work. So I work with disabilities, and what I wanted to do was create a name for my company that really was inclusive. And I think, you know, the very basic physiological kind of movement within the body, if we're not breathing, we're not here. So like everybody, no matter what their ability, can breathe. And it was like, well, you know, if we can all do that, then we can all participate in this movement or in this dance in whatever capacity we can. So it was really about that from the beginning. And then through my secondary school teaching, I was a secondary school teacher for 10 years. Just towards the end, it just felt very stressful. I felt disconnected from it. I felt very, just not in the right headspace. And so I turned back to yoga. So yoga was always there in the background, but I used to come at it from a flexibility point of view because I was a dancer. So it used to really help me with flexibility. However, when I kind of returned back to it with that sense of trying to bring in a bit of calmness into my life, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. This is amazing. So that just prompted me to then go and do my yoga teacher training. And that was in 2016. So then it was just automatic to change my name to Breathe, Dance and Yoga. So it kind of encapsulated it all. But in itself, it's taken on a kind of another meaning, because obviously this is like breath work, so pranayama from yoga, and it kind of creates the pillars of the business. So breath work, and then yoga and dance. But I really felt like the yoga and the dance had kind of got lots of knowledge around, but the breath kind of felt like I still needed to dive deeper. And so I'm currently on kind of a bit of a deep dive into the breath at the moment, and doing some training with my Buteyko training. So
I'm glad you didn't say it.
that's kind of spanned spanned over 20 years really,
Okay.
but the yoga element has been within the last 5 years.
Yeah. And I know probably when people think of breath work, I suspect the first name people think of is Wim Hof. Is that something that ever sort of crossed your path, or did you come to breath work sort of purely through the yoga side of it, or something else?
Yeah, I think when I was like, actually, there's more to this, I need to find out more. Excuse me, I'm a bit croaky today. I'd listened to some podcasts and Wim Hof came up, and I really started to kind of listen to him and find out more, and I got really intrigued by the ice baths as well. And so I did do a Wim Hof workshop. I went, there was an instructor in Birmingham last year, so I kind of went along to that, and that was a really amazing experience, and really showed me how powerful the breath can be. And I kind of felt like I was having all this kind of psychedelic kind of like lights and things like that, and then that's led into me just doing lots of reading around the breath. So I've kind of got lots of books, and really it was reading Breath by James Nestor that actually opened up kind of more awareness to what the breath can do and what it means for us on a day-to-day basis. So things like Wim Hof, another, you know, there's so much breath work out there, and every breath work's got a place, and there's no like wrong types of breath work, but you might come to it with different needs, and so some breath work practices might not be suitable for you at the place that you're at. So it's understanding what effects they have, and things like the Wim Hof can be quite an intense experience, and it's a bit like hyperventilating. So what I found was I really enjoyed it, and I got something from it, but it felt like it exacerbated my asthma.
Okay.
And so that's where the Buteyko comes in, because that is more about everyday functional breathing, which can help with things like asthma and anxiety. So again, for me, where I'm at, going and doing Wim Hof every day or every week isn't going to be good for me, but it could be really beneficial for somebody else, just like all the other kind of breath work practices that there are. But yes, that's.
I love the way you put that, where all breath work is great. It just depends what your individual need is. There's no such thing as a wrong breath work. It's just possibly not the right thing for you at that period in your life, which I think is a really good thing to say. Yeah. And I think it's just good to have an awareness of what you're going into, and if you've got any illnesses or physiological kind of things going on, knowing that, so that you're armed with knowledge when you go in. Oh yeah, this could make this worse, be aware of it, and then you can come out of that kind of breath pattern that you're in if it feels like it's taking you somewhere that you don't want to go. But the Buteyko is really about a functional breathing pattern that helps bring you back out of a dysfunctional breathing pattern, which you need on a daily basis. So what I've kind of wanted to do is come right in at that foundational level and help with everyday breathing, because that's what you do all day, which kind of sounds utterly bonkers, because I'm sure people are sitting there thinking, well, I breathe every day without the need of a breathwork exercise. But I think we don't notice perhaps just how shallow our breathing can get, particularly when you're feeling really stressed or really afraid, which is kind of a big thing at the moment. And it's just I guess it's kind of bringing that into your awareness and just starting to take a few of those deep breaths instead.
Although this is turning, I think that term deep breath can be, and I've had to turn my perception on this as well. So all this research and the training that I'm doing is completely flipping, like I'm having to unlearn what I thought I knew. And I've had to do a lot of that through yoga. What I thought I knew through dance, I've now kind of learned different, unlearn it, and kind of from an anatomical and movement point of view. And again with the breath, like we go, oh, you're stressed or anxious, take a big deep breath, and we kind of take this big breath in and sigh it out, but actually it throws off the chemical balance of the levels of CO2 and the oxygen have got to kind of keep a regular balance. And when we breathe through our mouth, we get rid of too much CO2. And if we're taking kind of big deep breaths, again, that throws it out. So the Buteyko method is light, slow, and deep, or I term it low, as in, because it's like deep within the body. So it's not kind of a deep within, like a massive breath in, it's deep into the body. So it's low down into the diaphragm, and the chest is hardly moving, and you're breathing through the nose, and it's actually really light. If you imagine that you're breathing like a really delicate thread of air in and out, but there's not a lot happening, and it's actually much smaller and much lighter. And actually, what if you've got a low tolerance to CO2? So essentially, the carbon dioxide, we need a certain amount in our bodies to absorb the oxygen that we're breathing in. And if we get rid of too much carbon dioxide, that actually creates the blood vessels to constrict, and blood flow to tissues and organs reduces, and blood flow to the brain can reduce by 40%. So then when people have got anxiety and they're feeling this overwhelm, the cognitive function isn't happening. It's a chemical, just that kind of physiology of breathing, that the CO2 level is too low. And actually, but then dysfunctional breathing patterns create a sensitivity to it. So our tolerance level of carbon dioxide might be quite low. And what we want to gain is a higher tolerance level. So when we slow that breath down, make it light, it might actually feel like, I want to take a big deep breath in because I don't feel like I'm getting enough air.
Yeah.
But we've got enough oxygen in the body, but it's kind of rebalancing that basic breath. But we talk about it being basic, but actually there's a whole heap of stuff going on with it.
Breathing is not basic at all. You don't really think, when it is so automatic, you don't really think about all the sort of science and the biology. It's quite
and I think that's what I'm interested in. I love neuroscience. I love really learning about what's the chemical processes going on in the body, and then that kind of links back in a bit more to the to spirituality, I guess, within the yoga. But I love the science that backs everything up and tells you why, the facts. And I think the other thing as well is, when we breathe through our nose, we actually create another gas. And this is only something that was found, I think, I don't have this exact, but I think it was only like 1990 that it was found out that we create nitric oxide when we breathe through our nose, which again is a vasodilator. So if we've got rid of too much CO2 and our veins are restricted, it opens everything back up. And this is for asthma as well. So it opens up the airways, the bronchioles, by breathing through the nose.
Okay.
So we've got oxygen, we've got carbon dioxide and nitric oxide, and we don't produce it when we mouth breathe. It's only from here. And this is, I love it all. I'm like, wow, this is fascinating.
That is.
Yeah. But and I know I'm doing it now because I've started becoming more aware. When we talk, like particularly if we talk for a job, I've done it, then I've breathed in through my mouth. So anybody who talks a lot for their jobs, it's a really good opportunity to kind of bring awareness to your breathing and notice, do you close your mouth and take a breath through your nose, or do you breathe in through your mouth?
I'm watching myself now. Studying every breath I take. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, obviously, you're saying the sort of the interest behind the breath work came kind of a little bit later on, but you started off very much in a sort of dance scenario. So, when you work with people, do you kind of combine all three things into one, or can people just sort of do dance with you, or just do yoga, or just do breath work?
At the moment, I am going to be offering separate classes in breath work. And at the moment, I have like a yoga flow. So yoga postures, which starts off with some breath work. And then the dance element kind of comes into the flow a bit. It comes into the way I structure the class. and it comes into the transitions between the movements. I can't detach from that. I can't detach from how we move from one position to another. So I guess that influence of my dance background comes in. And then the dance classes, I did trial one a while ago, and it's something I want to come back to, but I think there's so much going on with yoga and breathwork at the moment. And I ran a class called Funkin' Mums and Soul Sisters because it was for all the mums, like, you know, and I'm 41, and like I've got mum friends, you know, all their kids are going off to these dance classes, and they're like, oh, wish we could do something like this. And I was like, actually, yeah, this is what we need to do. So the class that I'd been teaching, because I was when we weren't in lockdown, I was teaching a children's class for a local gym, just like a funky class. Yeah. So I just used like what we'd done for that, but it was just for women over, you know, who were mums or, you know, older than because when you go to like an adult dance class, still full of like 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, and that can make people feel really uncomfortable. So I wanted to provide that opportunity to go to a class just like this, but it was welcoming, and it was for our age.
Yeah, lovely. Because you've also got the sort of the genre of music as well. So I know you've mentioned you were very much into your house, and myself and my other half very much sort of house trance kind of scenarios. So just trying to find somewhere that does that kind of music that you can have a dance to can be quite tricky, with or without the lockdown going on. So the fact that you've got a sort of an area where you can exercise and do the dancing and meet people who are all sorts of, you know, like-minded and similar age groups, it actually makes quite a big impact, I think. Yeah.
So I would like to come back to that. It's just I've not had the capacity to kind of put that back in, but I think there's another event brewing. I know, and I think those are more events rather than like a weekly turn up to a dance class. It feels like they're more events, because people don't always have the time to go to something every week, and actually it provides a bit more of it's got more excitement if it's like a once a month or once every 2-month event. So yeah, I'll come back to that. But then the other event I do is like a fusion of yoga, so like based on yoga postures, yoga asana, and then kind of interweaved with dance. And then again, I usually have a live DJ, and that's to house music, but that still pulls in the elements of yoga, like being present, being really connecting into the body, being aware, but also the like house music itself is about inclusivity and everybody being welcome. So it's bringing all of that together in this kind of safe container where everybody can kind of let loose a little bit, but we finish with a meditation where we let it all settle and feel that sense of connection to ourselves and to each other as well. So it's probably more of an artistic expression as well, that kind of just fuses all my background together, really.
Yeah Fantastic. And we've already touched on some of the sort of the science behind the breathing and whatnot, but with regards to what you offer people, how does that impact their well-being? How can people improve their well-being by doing these sorts of activities?
I mean, from a breathwork point of view, that's again, it's like quite a new area. I mean, there's the pranayama, but it felt like I didn't have the depth of knowledge to really be confident in bringing that forward. And actually, I'm really glad, because as I've gone into this research, some of the things that I guess not newer, but kind of what the Western idea of breathing and taking a big deep breath, I've heard that, I've used to say it in a yoga class, and that's kind of coming through certain types of training, so which is essentially not what the old yoga masters were doing. It was about slow, light breathing and holding the breath to produce this vitality and this this inner knowing. And when you look at the old yoga texts, that's what was happening, not big audible big breaths. So that's an area that's going to come through, and I'll be offering, once I've completed the Buteyko training, I'll be offering some specific breathwork classes that really work on, because I've got asthma, my daughter's got asthma, And it's just, again, it kind of feels like it's everywhere now. Like everybody seems to have some kind of asthma or exercise induced asthma. So it would be, you know, I'd want to kind of put something that would help with that. It helps with anxiety because it just kind of calms the nervous system down again, puts everything back into homeostasis, into balance. But moving the body as well. So when we kind of get to yoga, actually physically moving the body, it just shifts things. And again, we've got that release of endorphins and everything that kind of brings and settles the nervous system back into balance is what, like, breath work, yoga and dance as well, just kind of lifts the spirit. It definitely releases endorphins, but increases like creativity and self-perception and self-confidence. So there's so many areas that it actually helps people with. And and me as well, you know, teaching it, I've seen myself develop and feel more confident and in control as well.
Yeah, lovely. I like that. And what is it? So I'm just quick thinking of the times I've danced around my kitchen, like, you know, with something really cheesy on. It really lifts your energy. It makes you feel a lot better than you did before. So yeah, I love that. I love all that.
Yeah.
So what is it that inspired you to get into the Western, to, you know, to help other people on their well-being journeys and their creativity journeys and stuff?
I think because I needed it. I needed me like 10 years ago. And I think the fact that, you know, and can't get my words out, there's so many thoughts in my head. And what I felt like when I hit, I think I was about 35, and I just hit a point where I was like, I feel like I'm just a passenger in, you know, things are happening and I'm going along with it, but I'm not really taking control of my life. And it felt like I was just feeling stuck. So as I took this journey into being a yoga teacher, it opened up a brand new lifestyle and pathway and career. It, you know, it gave me the courage to quit my teaching job, which just wasn't serving me anymore. I had some really good experiences from it, but it just wasn't serving me and helping me feel healthy anymore. And also just my mindset and things like that. So yoga and exploring my interests really brought me self-confidence. It, you know, I've built business, you know, I've just sold a business, so it's brought all this kind of entrepreneurial skills in, and I just feel much better. And I guess after becoming a mum as well, you spend those early years, it changes you as a person anyway, and then all of a sudden when you start to try coming back to you, you're like, oh, hang on a minute, I feel like I'm somebody else. So I know that there's other people out there, and if I can help them just come back to, you know, recenter, just connect back into who they were or who they want to be. It's not even about who they were before, but who they want to be now. And we can't do that by not being embodied. We can't do it by just, you know, staying in our heads all day. We need to kind of feel into the body, be accepting of every part of us, and then make decisions and choices that moves us in the direction that we want to go. So I guess it was born out of the fact that I've gone on that journey, and I want other women to feel that way. I don't want them to feel stuck in that stuckness that we can get in.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely. Oh, Kat, you must have heard or experienced quite a few myths around things like yoga and breathwork. What are the sort of most common misconceptions around it?
I think for yoga, the biggest misconception is that you've got to be flexible to do it. You absolutely do not need to be flexible. And yoga is the one of my favorite quotes. I went really northern then. Quotes. one of my favorite quotes is, if you can breathe, you can do yoga. Because it starts with the breath, it starts with self-awareness. And yes, yoga can be perceived as all these crazy postures and ways of getting your body into different shapes, but actually it's more about moving your body and allowing energy to shift. And that can be done in so many ways. And it's more about drawing your awareness in. It's a tool for self-discovery, for finding out more about yourself and creating a sense of balance and calm, as well as sifting through all the crap as well that comes up. And people often think that it's just, these big flexible positions, and actually it's what you learn about yourself on the way there that's the key. So
I like that.
Complete myth that you've got to be flexible.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because being in the chiropractic clinic, we often recommend yoga because there is that flexibility side of it, and people are like, oh no, I couldn't, I'm not flexible enough. And you're like, well, no one sort of came out as a yoga guru, you got to do it and practice it, and then the flexibility comes along that journey. What's some of the common things with regards to the breath work?
Well, I think we've already touched on it, but the fact that taking a big deep breath will help calm you down and reduce anxiety. But as we kind of talked earlier, that shift of the balance of the carbon dioxide and oxygen has that physiological effect. So light, slow and low.
I love that. It's a t-shirt right there. So Kat, we mentioned sort of how you help people and your journey and how it's helped you in the workshops and the science you've been discovering behind it all. With regards to that, who would your ideal client be?
So I tend to say that my ideal client are women over 35 who want to, they just want to reconnect back to themselves. So they might be mums, but they might not be. But there's a sense of part of their life is stuck in a habit or a pattern that isn't bringing them what they want. It's not bringing them happiness. It's not bringing them joy. So anybody who feels like that, anybody who just wants to feel more embodied and connected in, whatever their background, it doesn't matter, previous to that, but just a wanting a sense of connecting back in to body and mind. And that's it, really. A lot of people also, because of the other aspects of work that I do, I often find that people are maybe ex-party goers and that hedonistic soul who like house music, who like they've experienced that sense of release and joy before, but maybe they don't know how to get back to it.
I like that. That's a really nice way of putting it. And can you share some of the feedback you've had from clients?
That's always the hard bit, isn't it? It's always the hard bit. I mean, I've had lots of really lovely reviews, and people are saying that I make them feel welcome and I make them feel safe, and it doesn't matter how old they are or what background, they're welcomed and they feel safe. And I think that's the key thing for me is that when people do come to my class, they feel safe, they feel seen, and they feel heard, and they feel supported. And everybody's transformation will be different, but I want them to feel welcome. It's that my northern roots, that friendliness, and that kind of want everybody to feel good. And people have said that it really helps their mental health as well. And they feel stronger, because I guess the other aspect of the yoga postures, again, it kind of comes back to my understanding of anatomy and physiology and wanting to deepen that. I've got a duty of care to those people that come to me. And if I'm getting them to move their body and hold positions, it's that understanding of what is it doing. And generally people come to yoga, it might be once a week, and then they've got the rest of their days and their lives doing normal things. So I haven't got I don't attract like elite athletes or anything like that. So a lot of the women, they're then going about their daily lives. So it's about keeping them feeling strong, not necessarily really going into deep stretches and back bends, which aren't going to uphold a functional body. So things like making sure that we've got strong glutes and, you know, we can find correct posture and finding, you know, mobility where we need it. The yoga classes are definitely about that. So people can come away feeling strong in everything that they're going to do, and they're not like stretching ligaments or becoming weaker as a result of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I think, excuse me, I think possibly a temptation for a lot of people, and I've done this myself, is you think, oh, I must do some yoga because I need to, you know, I must get more flexible. And then you go onto YouTube and then you find a yoga video and you try and follow along. And without that kind of care and attention from a practitioner easing you along your route, because, you know, there is just an enormous ability, I guess, to do yourself a bit of a damage if you push too far too fast. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, I think like anything, like the key thing is that everybody's responsible for their own body, but not everybody has got that mindset to really pay attention to what's going on. So it's like, I mean, I always remind my students, you know, you listen to what's going on. Does it feel good? Do you need to back off? And if you just go on to YouTube and do a video, then yeah, you're gonna almost like have a sense of what you want to do without having that prior conversation with the teacher, who's going to find out a little bit about why you're coming to yoga and what your goals are with it and why that's important to you, and who can then give you information that's gonna be useful. And if you've had any, you know, if you've had a history of injury or you're trying to recover from an injury, it's all going to be really different. So having a conversation with a teacher is actually really, really useful. And there are lots of good YouTube videos out there, but it lacks that personal touch.
Yes, by the very nature of it. Yes, yeah, that's a good point. So who has been a role model for you and sort of helped to shape your success and where you are now?
I think I mean there's a lot of really lovely yoga teachers in the town that I'm in, lots of fellow yoga teachers who are just great, and they do lots of really good stuff, so they're an inspiration. But I guess my students as well, because without them I wouldn't know which direction I should be guiding my business in. And from their feedback, knowing that it's on, you know, when I try something out and they go, oh Kat, that was really great, that felt really good, just what I needed, I know that I'm on the right tracks. And so they're more important than me following like another yoga teacher and watching their journey, because it's actually directed by the people I have in front of me. But one person that I really do enjoy following and who's really helped me with my understanding of anatomy is Celeste Pereira, and she's a physiotherapist and a yoga teacher. So she's done a few trainings which really helped to solidify why certain postures would be beneficial particularly for my students, and which ones might not, and the reasons why. Again, it's like the science behind it, like what's happening, what's going on. And I think that's important, you know, from right down from my really gentle flows to where I've got a much stronger, you know, kind of, it moves quicker, you've got the really developing strength in the postures. All throughout that, knowing how the body actually, you know, the biomechanics and everything else, and knowing that they're going to find benefit from that, I think that's one of my kind of key values, I'd say.
Yeah, nice, I like it. So with that being said, next question is one that I am asking everyone because I'm building up my own bookshelf. If you had to recommend just one book
Oh.
I know, everyone does that. There's a look of terror comes onto their faces. If you had to recommend just one book, what would it be and why?
Okay, so it's going to have to be the one that has, as I've read recently, and which really sent me on the whole breath journey and made me like unlearn what I thought of breath. And that is, it's called Breath. It might even be called Breathe. It's not in front of me. I think it's called Breathe. So it's got the E on the end, Breathe, by James Nestor.
Cool.
It might be Breath. No, I'm just trying to see if it's in front of me somewhere.
So Breathe or Breath by James Nestor.
By James Nestor, yes. Cool. It's I think it's Breathe.
And what is it that people, what did you get from that in particular? Was it sort of the science side of it, or like you were saying?
Yeah, it was the whole science behind it, and actually why we breathe through our nose. And the crazy thing is the impact of breathing through the nose, how it then affects the development of the jaw, and like for children as well, the whole development of the face, the muscle, the jaw, the bones of the face continue to grow, and actually the stem cells are produced from chewing, and a lot of us don't chew as much anymore because food is processed and softer, and then that impacts on the teeth, on dentistry and everything. So it was just this whole like yeah. And I just thought it was incredible, because that made me realize if I'm getting people to breathe, and actually bring awareness to the breath, I need to do it in a way that helps their everyday life. So it's improving their everyday breathing pattern, and not just for half an hour once a week. It's like they can take it through. So that's had the biggest impact on me. But I've got loads of books I love.
That's fantastic, thank you. So Kat, what are your plans for the rest of the year? What's going on in the world of Kat?
So there's a lot going on, and it's all kind of happened at once. I had another business. It was a bell tent hire business, which got really impacted by the whole COVID pandemic. So I've actually just sold that. So I made the decision in February that I just wanted to focus now on my yoga business, develop the breath work, and just become solely focused on this. And so it was confirmed last week that was sold. So then I can kind of reinvest into maybe more training. But this week I started a 21-day challenge inside my Facebook group, which had 125 people sign up to, which was just mind-blowing. Again, I would have been happy with 20, and the numbers kept going up. So that's really exciting. So I'm going to take everybody on this 21-day journey, just 5 to 10 minutes every day, although the first 2 days went on for way more than that. I couldn't stop talking. And again, exploring different little techniques that can help. And then on the 16th of May, I'm going to do a day retreat. So that day just before the 17th, where the restrictions lift again, just to reset and to gain, because lots of people have got social anxiety now and new habits. So this kind of reset is about kind of recognizing those, setting new habits, and then spending like a good half a day on the 16th just to reconnect, reset, and get ready to kind of take forward a positive attitude and tools that are going to help us navigate those situations that might cause stress and anxiety. And then I've got, hopefully, it's all in the planning process, a women's wellness summit coming up at some point in June.
Nice.
Where I'm going to pull together people like yourself who work with women in a different way to what I do, but essentially we're all trying to get them to the same place, to feel better. to feel better and to have tools that fit into their lives that they need. And that's not always me. That's not always me. And it's not always yoga, and it's not always dance or breath work. So pulling that together, and then that'll be over a weekend in June where there'll be workshops and talks. And then after that, I'm hoping I can launch an online course. So these are all plans, and I'm hoping that it all happens.
Love it, love it. Nice, busy few months ahead of you.
Yeah, so it's going to be busy.
So with that all being said, Kat, where can people go to find out a bit more about you? Drop some links on my head.
Brilliant. So all my social media have got the same handle. So it's at Breathe, Dance and Yoga, and that's all spelt out. Breathe with an E on the end. So Breathe, Dance and Yoga. And my website needs a bit of improvement. So I don't, if you jump on my website, find the link to the social find the link to the social media, although I will hopefully update it soon. And the social media gives you much more of an much more of an insight into me. But my website is www.breathedanceandyoga.com. So everything's the same. Everything's the same handle. Yeah. And yeah, just feel free if anybody wants to get in touch, drop me a message. I'm not sure when this will be going out, but if the challenge is still running, you can come and join in the challenge that I'm running. And yeah, be lovely to help more people.
Fantastic. Well, I will, as always, I'll drop those links into the comments so you can just click and go. So with that being said, Kat, as we're drawing to the end, I do like to end my chats with the guests sort of sharing some information or doing an exercise that people can sort of do right away and get something from. So with that being said, my lovely, do you have something you can share with us?
I think we should do the light, slow and low breathing.
I think we should. I'm all over that.
We've talked about it a lot. Let me just move this back a little bit so I can bring. So I think the first thing is to make sure that you're sat upright. And a lot of the time when we're sitting, we're collapsed and we end up kind of, we're rounding our back. We flatten out through the lower, through the lumbar spine, and then that means we collapse into the diaphragm. So actually just feeling this sense of openness. So the shoulders are sat on top of the hips and we're not flaring the ribs. We've got this kind of nice feeling of lift through the spine. And then just place one hand on the chest. And I want you to just apply a little gentle pressure. And we want the chest to remain as still as we can. And then the other hand can come onto the belly. This doesn't quite include the whole of me, so hopefully I'll give enough instruction. And then close the mouth. And then as you breathe, I just want you to breathe through the nose and just find that first of all. And just imagine that as you breathe in, the air is being drawn in like a really delicate thread. So we reduce the volume a little bit. And as it draws down, your breath is drawing deep into the body, low into the body. So it's not about the bigness, it's just about the depth into the body. So your hand that's resting on your tummy might move, but it doesn't have to be a big movement. And then as you find that, notice if it makes you feel like you've got air hunger, like you're wanting to get more breath in. And so it might be that you don't breathe quite as slowly to begin with. But then what we're aiming for is 6 breaths per minute, which is essentially 5 seconds on the inhale and 5 seconds on the exhale. And sometimes that can feel difficult. So you might start with 3. But it becomes light, it becomes slow. And as well, you can always breathe in for maybe 3 or 4 counts, and then out for longer, so 5 or 6. And then what that does, that longer exhale, it's starting to build your tolerance because the CO2 stays in the body a little bit more. And so everything becomes quiet. And we're just keeping the air drawing in and out through the nose, really light. The chest is still. And we're just allowing the lower rib cage just to gently expand. And so a few minutes of that.
Excuse me.
we'll just kind of bring everything back into that state of balance. But you might find that you want to take a big breath in.
Yeah, that was it started off, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. And then I'm like, no, I need more air.
Yeah.
I could actually, even in that short space of time, I can really feel a much more sort of settled, there's a difference. There is a difference in my body.
Yeah. And if you think about when you notice somebody who's calm and relaxed, they're not breathing in huge big breaths. You don't really see it. There's just a really gentle, calm stillness.
Yeah.
So we don't have to make the breath really big. So
that's completely shot my myth out of the water about the deep breath. That was incredible. Oh, Kat, that was so interesting. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. It's been
I've loved it. Thank you.
I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time, and very hopefully we'll get together again soon and do some more good stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Cheers, Kat, love. Thank you.